My dear friends, welcome to lesson 7 of complete Python series. So in today's class, I'm going to teach you the concept of, you can say, we will be doing conditional statements. All right, my dear friends, so let's just move to our class. All right. So let me show you how the conditional statements work. Okay. So over here, as you can see that there are conditional statement. In it, you can say that there is a if condition. All right. So in this case, I could simply say that like there will come a statement one. So this condition would be, you can say something I have written. Let's say I have written my age is greater than 18. All right. So if my age would be greater than 18, then only the statement would be printed. All right. So let me just explain you all this concept with the help of an example. All right. So let's just do that first. So let me write down the code. All right. So my dear friends, let me tell you how the code works. All right. So let's say my age is, let's say I have made a variable 21 and I have written a condition if simply my age is, I can say that greater than equivalent to, let's say 18. So I will simply print this statement. I will write double colon and I will write over here print. It will print that can vote, or you can say have voter ID card and can vote. All right, my dear friends. So that is how the thing works. So let me just save this code and let me just run it now. Okay. So in this case, you can say that I have voter ID and can vote. So since my like if condition was true because the age I gave the input was greater than 18, so that is why I have written over here have voter ID and can vote. Okay. And if I will simply write over here, my dear friends, let's say I write over here, let's say 617. All right, and let me just save this code, okay, and let me just run it again. Let's see what it prints. So it doesn't print anything. This simply shows that this condition is false. Okay, in this case I can also print, you can say, more than one lines of code. I can simply write over here print and I can write can vote, and I can also write also print. I can say that can vote, as well as I can say that certificate uh, no, I can say that can vote and and can also, you can say, drive the car. Can drive car. Okay, so for driving the car also, the, let's say, minimum age is 18. Okay, so in this case, if my condition would be true, my dear friends, so let's say my condition is, let's say, 23. Okay, so let me just save it and run it. So yes, in this case, I'm getting can vote and also can drive the car. Both I'm getting, so that is right. So that is how my conditional statements work. That means, my dear friends, that inside this brackets, there is something called as true. Okay. And if the condition inside my brackets is true, I will simply print my, simply these lines would be printed. And if my condition in this side, inside this bracket, if was crystal clear to all of you. Now let's just move forward. Okay, so my dear friends, let me just tell you about like how this statement basically works. Okay, so basically, my dear friends, in this case, I can simply say that if my if condition, in some case, my if condition is not true. All right, my dear friends, so I can say that if my if condition is simply not true, then my elif will run. In this elif, if my elif would be true, then this statement 2 will be printed as the output. Okay, my dear friends. And if this elif is also not true, then next elif will run and that will be printed. I will come back to you at the else statement in some time. Okay. First, let me just tell you in brief about the elif statement. Okay, my dear friends. So now let me just tell you about the Like, let me just give you an example code. Okay. So let's say I have taken a color and I have given the color input as, let's say, pink. All right, my dear friends. So let's say I'm writing over here conditions that if my, or I can say the light. Okay. This is the light. All right. So if my light is simply, you can say, red, then I have to print. That case, I have to print simply, I can say that top. Okay. And I can say if my light, I can say that if my light is simply, I can say, if my light is simply the green, in that case, I have to simply print. In that case, I have to print, let's say, go. Okay. And in the next case, I will write over here LF. And if my light is, let's say, my light is yellow. In that case, I have to, um, um, in the case of yellow light, I have to print simply the look output. Okay, my dear friends, in that case, I have to print look. So just let me just, so let me just save it first. Okay. So yes, my dear friends, let me just tell you that over here I will write, basically I'm assigning the value. So I will be writing double equal to over here. Over here also double equal to, and over here also double equal to. Okay, my dear friends, and here I will be doing like this and doing like this. Okay, my dear friends. So let me just save it now. And let's say I will run this code, but I will be getting the output. I will be getting nothing since my color was pink. Okay. And let's say I'm going to give the color input as green. Okay. So in this case, let's see what happens. So in this case, I'm getting the output as go. Okay, my dear friends. So basically, firstly, it is going to check for this red light. If the light is not equal to red, it will simply move to the elif statement. Then it will check that light is green. Yes, it matches. Then it will go inside this and then it will simply print go. And the code will be further not run. This statement will not be executed. The code will be completed till this point. All right, my dear friend. So let me just explain to you with an example. So my dear friends, we can write any number of, okay, and also my dear friends, we can end our code with a print statement. You can say that the end of code. Okay, my dear friends, I'm writing over here end of code. So at this point, my code simply ends. Okay. So let me just save it and run this code. Okay, my dear friends. So yeah, so this is printing me end of the code as well. So my dear friends, I can write, as many if statement as many else statements in my code. Okay, my dear friends. So let's say I'm writing over here if. All right. And let me just save it. My code will be working this way also, right? Okay, it will be working this way the same. All right, my dear friends. So that is how the things goes. So let's say there is the light is simply my green and that is the output I'm getting. All right, my dear friends. Okay, so my dear friends, let me tell you about the difference between the two statements. Okay. So basically, my dear friends, what is happening over here is something I can say that, as I told you, that we can write as many if statements in my code. Okay. But in my code, my elif statement will only run if my if statement is simply the false. If my if statement is false, then only my elif statement will run. Okay. After that, only my elif statement will run. Okay, my dear friends. So let me just explain this difference to you with the help of an example. Okay. So my dear friends, in this case, for example, let me just remove it and let me just tell you another thing. So let's say, my dear friends, in this case, I'm writing over here, let's say num is 5. Okay. I'm writing over here num is 5. And I will write if my simply, I can say that my num is greater than, let's say, 3, then I will print. It is simply, I will print with a double colon. Yes, I will print it is greater than 3. All right, my dear friends. And if I will write another statement with this also, if my num is simply, let's say, greater than 2, in that case, I'm going to print simply I can say it is greater than 2. Okay, my dear friends. So these are the two things that are getting printed. Let me just, indent this code as it is not looking as proper. Okay, so indentation is a very good programming practice. So we should be following that so that our code will become readable and easy to understand. Okay, my dear friends. So let me just save this code. Okay, and let me run it. So in this case, my dear friends, though both the statements will be printed, okay, greater than 3, because my code will run like this if number is equal to 5, okay. So firstly, it will check this if statement. If my number is greater than 3, in that case, it will simply print me greater than 3. Again, after running this code and printing this line, it will again run another if statement. And in that case, it will be writing as, number is greater than 2. That is also true, so it will be also printing number greater than 2. But if in place of that, I will write over here elif statement. So in that case, simply this statement will not run. Okay. Once this statement will run, it will come out of the code and only one single statement will be printed. In this case, yes. Simply greater than 3 is printed. So that is the difference between, you can say, if you will be using, continuous if statements, and if you will be using if or elif statements. I hope, my dear friends, this was also crystal clear to you. So let's just move forward now. So hello, my dear friends. Now let me just tell you about the statements. Okay, so there is, you can say, elif statement in Python. Okay, now let me talk about the else statement. So this else statement, my code is always written at the end of my code. Okay. So and it is only appear only once. Like you can say there can be any number of elif statements in my code, but else statement is always written at the last statement. Okay, and it is always written at the end. All right, my dear friends. So let me just explain that to you with the help of an example. And also, my dear friends, if you can say my if condition is wrong, then you can say my elif condition is also wrong. That is also false. In that case, the end condition would be the else that will be running. All right, my dear friends. So let me just explain that to you with the help of an example. So let's say, my dear friends, let's say I'm having a light. This is equals to, you can say that I'm giving it an input as yellow. All right. So let's say I'm writing the code. If my light is simply, I can say, is equivalent to red. Okay, my dear friends, in that case, I will be simply printing. You can say firstly, I have to write the double equal to over here. Okay, my dear friends. So yes, in that case, my dear friends, I will be simply printing that stop. All right. Then I will write my elif condition. Okay. In my elif, if I write over here, if my light is equals to, I can say that yellow, my dear friends. So in that case, my dear friends, I can simply say that you have to print. You can say you have to print look. All right, my dear friends. And let's say my another condition is, let's say elif, if my light is simply you can say equals to green. Okay, my dear friends. So in this case, I will be simply printing you can say that go. Okay, I will simply print grow over here. All right, else if I will give something, different color as the input, in that case I will be printing that light is broken. Okay, the light is broken would be printed in this case. Okay, my dear friends, so that is the simple thing that I will be getting in this case. Okay, so now, and let me just, print over here another line. That is, you can say that this is my end of code. All right, my dear friends. So let me just save it and run this code. So in this case, the output I got is a look, and then I got end of the code. Okay, my dear friends. So if I will write over here simply, let's say pink. Okay, let me just save it and run it again. So in this case, I have got light is broken. So my dear friends, as you can see over here, that is how the else and elif statement works. Firstly, the if was run. It was not true. Then it checked for elif condition. That was also not true. Then it checked for elif another condition. That was also that too was not true. Then I checked for else condition. That was, and condition will run when all the conditions above one will get false. All right, my dear friends. So in this case, light is broken will be printed. So I hope, my dear friends, you enjoyed today's lecture and it was, full of learning and knowledge. And I hope you enjoyed the class. And yeah, so today we did a lot more about the if and elif conditions. And let me discuss with you, my dear friends, another like a small example code. Okay, that is what I have to print. That is, you can say my marks, and these are the conditional statements that I have to write, and that should be, you can say, based on, you can say based on the, simply I can say that the marks of the students. Okay, so basically, if the marks is greater than equivalent to 90, in that case, my grade A will be printed, and that's all. Okay, so firstly, let me just write down the code over here. Let me just create a new program. In that, I will write, you can say mark.py. Okay, my dear friends. So let me just write down over here that, let's say the marks is, let's say I'm giving the input as, let's say 25. Okay, 24. So if I will write the condition, if my marks are, simply I can say, is greater than equivalent to 90, in that case I will be printing, you can say that the grade A. All right, my dear friends. And then I will write over here elif statement. And then there was next condition. Let me check it. So marks is a greater than, if marks are in between 90 and 80. Okay, if my marks are, let's say, lesser than 90 and my marks are, simply I can say, that greater than equivalent to 80. Okay, in that case, like if both the conditions are true, only that. Okay, and it will be, simply you can say, print as, you can say, the grade B. All right, my dear friends, now let's just move forward to the elif. Okay, so in this case, my dear friends, I will say that if my marks are simply lesser than 80, if my marks are simply lesser than 80, in that case, my dear friends, I can simply print over here as the grade number C. All right. And let me just, I actually, we did not, indentation of code is missing over here. So let me indent it, and yeah. So let me just answer. Yeah. So then, my dear friends, the last condition that I would be having is if my, you can say, marks are lesser than 70. So I can put this condition in my else as well, or no, I will put it in elif. Okay. So elif, if my marks are, simply you can say, um, marks are, yeah, and in this case also marks are less than 80, and here will be marks are, you can say that greater than equivalent to, I can say, 70. Okay, my dear friends, and in this case you can say that in my last line I will write the else condition over here, my dear friends. So else I will simply print over here, simply I can say that I will simply print over here grade D. Okay, my dear friends, so in this case my grade D will be printed. Okay, my dear friends, so let me just save this code and run it. So in this case, the output should I be getting is a grade D. That is how it works. So that is how, my dear friends, the code of, simply I can say that marks works. Okay, I can also do a change over here. I can also take the input of the marks from the user. Okay, so I can also write over here input, and uh, uh, input. Then I can write over here enter your marks. Okay, my dear friends, and I can also write one more line of code over here so that it will get completed. Okay, my dear friends. So in this case, I will write over here print, and here will be simply the end of code. Okay, my dear friends. Let me just save it and run it again. So yes, let's say I have entered the marks, let's say 97. Okay. So in this case, I get grade A and end of code. So that was all, my dear friends, about today's class. So today we discussed about another, very interesting example from the conditional statements as well. So now, my dear friends, let's just move to, let us see you soon. So that was all about today's lecture. and you will be getting the notes of this class as well. Okay, my dear friends, and yeah, so see you soon, and stay tuned for more Python videos. And we will be completing the whole course soon. And every day you will be getting one lecture. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to my channel. And do comment and give suggestions as well. Thank you so much, my dear friends. See you in my next class.